We're back at it, Chatcast. Week 2, fresh from the hiatus. Feeling pretty good. This is that same night where we complained about being like kind of brain dead from doing yard work in the heat. You know, sometimes we batch record these, and yeah, that's what's happening right now, which is great. You know, we plan things so well. You know,
Right? Always prepared.
So we're down here, we're doing our thing, right? And to springboard off of what we were talking about, you know, why you should listen to us and have us help teach and guide you in certain aspects, we're going to talk about who's teaching you, right? And so I kind of like to do this where I take inventory in my life of, you know, who's influencing me. And I encourage myself and you and him to kind of do your homework on these people. Like, what was their past? You know, don't worry about looking at us because there's literally nothing. Our past is the 6 months prior to this of videos that we made. So if you want to know about us, that's what it is. But other people, like maybe a professor, maybe a certain politician, maybe a certain movie star, maybe a religious icon, maybe some kind of yogi or guru. I like that word yogi, so I'm going to keep saying it. Or some guru, right? You got to really look into the past of this person and analyze what, you know, where they're coming from, what they speak about. Has their patterns of teaching been consistent, or have their principles shifted? And if their principles have shifted, it's not necessarily bad, but you need to pay attention to that. Like, what changed? Did something change with their brand, let's say? Did something change with their thinking? Were they enlightened? Did they explain it? Or did they just kind of brush it under the rug and change and hope no one brings it up? You know, are they starting to become, were they less political and now they're more political? Were they political and now they're less political? Why? What is influencing their speaking? What sponsors joined up? Did it change the way that they talk when they partnered with a new brand? Or, you know, are they trying to reach for more money and more stardom? And what's going on there, right? Do this a lot. Analyze where people are coming from and the things that they're trying to teach you, and constantly put that light in. And don't be bashful about this, because oftentimes we blindly trust people, and I've been there a bunch, man. And you blindly trust somebody, and then you find out that they were blindly trusting someone and deceived ultimately, and kind of deteriorate and crumble.
The blind leading the blind.
Right? Yeah, there it is. And I don't think it's always intentional. So again, our actions here aren't to vilify a specific person or a mindset or a specific worldview or anything. It's more so to just cautionary tale of saying, I've been burned in the past, he's been burned in the past, we've been misled by people that were supposedly having good intentions and trying to do the right thing. They get clouded sometimes. And you have to pay attention to who is teaching you, who is influencing you, and then what are their patterns of life like. And before I pass it to Kyle to see what else he has to add to this, I want to say that I am really big into this, and that is when you analyze other people or institutions or worldviews or paradigms, you have to also take that same critical lens and apply it to your own heart, to your own institution, to your own set of heroes, to your own worldview. Otherwise, you aren't sincere and you won't have any fruitful outcomes, because it didn't come from a place of sincerity. If you are critically analyzing someone else and then you don't turn that to the same way over to you, then that's not really fair or right. And so your rulings and your thought process there is going to be inconsistent. The findings that you have are going to be inconsistent, and you're going to have this dissonance in your life. And you're always going to wonder why I feel kind of dissonant. And that's because you aren't equally applying your unit of measurement. So if you're a sensitive person and you don't want to analyze yourself like that because it hurts you, don't you dare do that to somebody else. If you're going to measure your own heart softly, you have to measure theirs in that same regard, and be consistent with that. Otherwise, you will always kind of have this feeling of, it's like, am I messing up? Well, if you want to shake that, be consistent, and then also use that on yourself. And I've said that like 5 or 6 times now, because I really, really mean that. And I don't think that it could be stated enough, that when you're going to judge a person or a system of thinking or anything like that, you have to do the same thing to what you think is already real. Otherwise, everything you did is just an act of futility. It's just worthless. It's like you just had an argument with the wind. Now, well, right before you get ready to talk, I just noticed I should probably see if this thing is in focus. I think it is.
It looks focused to me. I'm focused. Are you focused?
I'm focused now. So everything I just laid down about analyzing yourself with your own critical lens, analyzing who's teaching you, finding out their background, seeing if they have any biases that exist, and not necessarily that any of this makes them bad, but to just know this about who they are. What do you have to add about that?
Okay, so mine's kind of like twofold, but it's not really twofold. But if that makes sense, doesn't to me. But so
you're on your own.
Yeah. Whenever I've analyzed who I listen to and who I'm learning from, one of the biggest things that I try to be careful of for myself is whenever I notice that they're fueling an emotion I was already having. Because once I notice that's happening, because sometimes I'll just start running with it. Yeah, when somebody says something, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're making Molotov cocktails in your garage.
Like, all right, you know what? But it's the fueling of the emotion that I was already having. I'm always cautious for, because
I like that.
is because of the fact that I don't like I like the rational advice, because I know that I'm prone to make decisions based on emotions that are not necessarily good to pan out. So like if I'm angry about something and I hear like an author or a speaker or somebody like that say something that makes that anger greater, then I'm prone to do something out of that amplified emotion that's probably not going to benefit the solution that needs to happen. Which I think that made sense.
Yes, it did.
Okay. And the biggest thing about that is because most of the people that I'm sitting there and I'm listening to that actually have helped me and given me good advice, and advice that's been tangibly like made change in my life, are the people that present rational things that may not necessarily subvert any emotion. They might tie to an emotion or something like that, but also produce something. It ties the emotion with the logic in a way, like that kind of truth, where it's like, I did feel that way, but it's pulling me back towards thinking now. And so the reasoning that I said it was kind of twofold was because whenever you have somebody that provokes, this is the secondary part of it. This is something that triggers like, oh wait, are they fanning like a flame that was already kind of like burning in me? Is whenever people provoke immediate action, I'm always like hesitant, because
they're usually FBI agents.
So, and I'm not, and you know me better than most people, is I'm not typically a let's stop, wait and see kind of guy. I'm like, let's do it. Like if we fall on our face, then we'll know. But that's something that I've had to build in my life, is that stop and wait. And the trigger for it, whenever they start provoking like immediate action, like we need to do this now, we need to do that now, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to go here and be this. I'm always hesitant, because whenever someone's pushing you to act immediately, they're generally playing on your emotions. And I don't like that, and that almost always gets me into trouble. So that's the biggest, like, who am I listening to? I'm looking for people that are not necessarily cold and calculated and don't want to involve emotion at all. But I'm also not listening to people that are completely fluid and only want to look at the ever-changing landscape of the emotional inside you and then make your decisions based off that. I'm looking for the person to learn from, not necessarily like I'm looking for them, but I'm always gravitated to them because they tie both of those things together. And whenever those things come together, that's always the most effective truths that I've learned in my life.
Oh yeah, I'm laying down, or I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah, I'm asleep. No, that makes perfect sense, because I very much agree with anytime there's been a person that's like, we need to immediately do X, Y, or Z. It usually means that I am doing their bidding, and then I am then therefore left holding the carnage, or the bill. I'm left holding the bag.
You're the guy standing there when the cops get there.
Yes, pretty much. And that so I really like that, and that's a very, very good and critical point to analyze. Be careful about that urgent call to action and that constant emotional pull. And it's like, is that person bad, right? Because I know that's the thing that's currently going in the culture, is that everybody's trying to have this villain, and I just want to stop that crap. It's getting old. I'm getting tired of it.
Yeah.
Because even if the person wholly disagrees with you, it doesn't give you the right to make them this permanent villain, right? And I don't really vibe too well on a person that's constantly being emotionally activated. And I just don't like that. It doesn't feel good to me. But does that mean that person's bad? No, I can't say that. They just operate a little bit differently, and maybe they make mistakes. I mean, I'm a person. I make mistakes. Even trying to be rational, I make mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the other part of that too that I'd like to add is again, we're not trying to be like, that person is wholly terrible at all terms of life. No, just exercise caution. Protect yourself, because hey, I'm here to tell you right now, I don't care what you think about somebody else. They probably don't really care about you. I know that sounds cold-blooded, but they really don't fully. Most people are all about self-preservation, us included. I mean, honestly, we're humans. That's kind of the part of what the humans struggling against the world of sin, entropy, death, decay. I don't know, whatever you want to sum that up to. That's kind of what got us here, is some degree of that self-preservation quality. And so remember that too. And they're gonna take care of themselves at the end of the day. And then a lot of times, and you'll be sitting there shocked, because you'll be like, wow, yeah. And so protect yourself. Anyways, that's all we got on this one. We'll be back. We're gonna continue this. And hey, you know what? It's always fun. It's neat to hang out with our imaginary audience, but hopefully you won't be imaginary. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, and yes.